went to bed hungry and had tears in their eyes. Who's going to wipe those tears? Last night a child went to bed having been abused and hurt, had tears. Who's going to wipe those tears? Last night a child went to bed unloved, not feeling very good about themselves. Who's going to wipe those tears? And when I say to you that last night the child went to bed here in Cincinnati, and probably not very far from this building, that child didn't go to bed last night. That child went to the floor. That child went to the chair. That child went to a bed with 3 other brothers and sisters. These are children who are more comfortable in the darkness of failure than the light of success. Yes, I talk about who's going to wipe those tears. More importantly, who's going to prevent those tears? And we're here tonight because Santa Maria is one of those organizations that does both. All children deserve the opportunity to live in a community where they can learn, where they can play, where they can grow. Live in a community where jobs are accessible, where there's reliable transportation and things are safe. Unfortunately, for the children of poverty, which we're talking about tonight, they don't have it. The Kaiser Foundation said if a child can leave their poor neighborhood before the age of 13, by the time they become adult, they'll make more money than the kids who have to stay behind. But after 13, you can't stay tough. I told you about children who go to bed at night crying, go to bed at night hurt and unloved. These are children who go to bed at night poor, and those at the bottom of the realm, the bottom of the poverty realm, will wake up as an adult still in poverty. What are we going to do? When you look at the children in the city, if you are poor, you hear about 800 words a day. If you're blue collar, about 1,200, and if you're more than blue collar, about 2,200 words a day. So that child, by the time they're 3 years old, are 30 million words behind already. And then what about lead? No lead in your brain is normal. But in this country, we have established a level of lead in children's brains that is acceptable. And it was the Cincinnati Health Department, under Commissioner Mazzarow, who got that level cut in half nationally. But they're still there. And every study that challenges the ability of the children shows if you get lead, your scores are lower. But the band plays on. So these children have lead. They're not hearing words. They're unloved. They're hurt. They're spanked. They're beaten. They're abused. And society says, hey, you have to start with level playing field. When is it ever level for them? When is it level? When you look at these children, it reminds me of a story. Not of a story, but of a case. 20 years ago, I started a program in Cincinnati called Project Bright through the Knowledge Works Foundation. And we picked 4 of the poorest schools to introduce this program because we figured we could show a gain in those schools that people understand is real. So one of my schools, these schools were chosen based on the level of free lunch. So one school had 94%, one school had 96%, another was 95%, and I'm embarrassed even today to tell you that one school probably, and it was in this, not far from this neighborhood, was 100%. 100% of free lunch. And society's telling you a level playing field? So one of my schools at that time was Heberly. It doesn't exist today. And the teachers told me about this child and his brother. They were in first grade. And they noticed each morning they were the first ones there for the breakfast. First ones in line for the cereal. And after his child had the cereal, he walked into the room, and the first thing he said to the teacher was, "When's lunch? When's lunch?" He just had breakfast. And they noticed that he and his brother on the second and third day were whispering and talking and figuring, and they were trying to steal an extra box of cereal. Yes, that's stealing. But they were still hungry. How is it level? And the one child, this child, who's scarfing down the cereal and the milk, has lactose intolerance. Severe lactose intolerance. Lactose intolerance impacts about 90% of African Americans in some expression of the gene. Some people can drink ice cream and milk, get a little upset stomach. Other people on this end get a glass of milk and they run into the restroom. This boy is that way. So he runs to the restroom, he has diarrhea, so he comes back to the class, and he's in first grade, and all the kids look at him and hold their nose and call him stinky. They pull their chairs away from him. His own mother's already given him away. This is a child that doesn't have a mother who can run home and say, "Perfect, you're treating me bad." And every mother in this room, you know the power of your arms. When you grab a child who's hurting, and in your arms, and your arms, and your arms, and your arms, how instantly they feel better. Because mom is grabbing the arms. He doesn't have a dad to go home and say, "Dad, you're teasing me." And they have that father put his arm around his shoulder and give him some wisdom. What do you think that child's going to be? What do you think? Oh, don't feel bad. There's a gang out there waiting for him. When he's 8 or 9, they'll give him $5 to run and get sandwiches and donuts. They're going to show the love the society's not showing them. And it's sad. When I was a coroner, I read some studies about private prisons. And one of the many factors that a private prison will look at is your third grade reading score. If children not read on the third grade level, they got a great chance to be in jail when they get older. Third grade. And in this country, if you're in the poverty zone and you're in a core, the percent of kids not truly reading on third grade level is 70%. Here in Cincinnati, until a few years ago, 50% of children weren't ready for kindergarten. What does that mean? Not ready. You gotta count to 10, know your colors, and your shapes. 50% not ready. Now I chair the preschool promise. Preschool promise is the extra $15 million that those of you who live in Cincinnati voted to add to the school budget to allow vouchers to be given to kids 3 and 4 year olds to go to quality preschool. And I can tell you it's working. We just got our data from Children's Hospital, and it showed that the kids, the poorest of the poorest, had the greatest gains in the kindergarten readiness test. But for that little boy, money isn't everything. He's joined your gang, Santa Maria gang, Nehemiah gang, other groups in. He's joined your gang. Money doesn't always help. Yes, everybody in this room has the ability to give money to feed the poor. You got money to give money to house the poor. You can give money to clothe the poor, but that's not enough. You need to feed them hope and encouragement, clothe them in empathy and compassion, and shelter them against despair, which leads to drugs and teenage pregnancy and all those kinds of things. It's not always about money, but sometimes it is. Tonight it is about money. I remember years ago reading a poem by Sir Thomas Gray. He was an English poet. And around 1700, he was going down a country road. He stopped at a country church. In those days, the churches had their own cemeteries. And he got and walked around, and he was struck by the unmarked graves of all the poor children that had died as children. All the graves. And he wept. Because he realized there might have been great voices, great singers, great statesmen, great doctors and lawyers, but they're dead because of children poverty. So he wrote a eulogy, in the last couple lines said, he gave to misery all that he had a tear. He gave from heaven all he wanted a friend. How sad that we have people who only have a tear to give to misery, and they have to die to get a friend. And for so many of these children, you're not going to see them cry anymore. They've cried all their tears. They become hardened. If you want to hear them cry, you have to listen to the heart. When the pages of your lives are going to be read by whoever you deem as your Redeemer, your God. When they review your life as individuals in this room today, what is it going to say? If you say, Dr. Owens, I raised my family and I went to work every day. Yes, that's terrible, but not enough. What about God's children? What about these kids of poverty? Who's going to step up for them? I've always wished that I could find 1,000 hearts for my army. I didn't say 1,000 blacks or 1,000 whites or 1,000 Asians or 1,000 Hispanics. I said 1,000 hearts. People who care, who can reach out and touch. That little boy in first grade needs love. Needs love. Let me share one more story. As a point, I was called to a homicide. And I went there, and the police said there's an area of prostitution. We're trying to find a witness. There was this one 13-year-old prostitute. And I said, whoa, 13-year-old prostitute? They said, yes. Not the first time we've seen a 13-year-old out there prostitution. And I think about another little girl in that first grade class. She's in first grade, and when she goes home, she's got to take care of her brothers and sisters. But mommy leaves her alone. She's cried all her tears. She's cried when there's been no electricity. She's cried, certainly there's been no food. And she cries even more so because mommy's not there. And her last tear is when mommy's boyfriend came over and mommy wasn't home and took her to the bedroom to play that secret game she's not allowed to talk about. You think money's going to save her? No. Your love will save her. Your love and your concern. And part of that can be channeled to Santa Maria, but some of that's got to do on your own. I'm going to end by telling you one more story. For 19 years, I rung the bell for the Salvation Army 3 days in a row, 3 days before Christmas, in Fountain Square. And it started when I picked up the newspaper one day and read that Target said that the Salvation Army could no longer put their kettle in front of Target. And Red Cross said, wow, that's a great kettle for us, we're going to lose a lot of money. I said, well, look, I'll ring the bell and I'll bring friends and I can stimulate the public to see your plight. So for 2 hours a day, we ring the bell. I brought down different people, the Penguin, Oscar Robinson, Bootsy, all kind of people. Dean Gregory joined me 2 years later, and we started feeding. He started giving away food: pulled pork, pulled chicken, potato chips, and coleslaw to anybody who walked up. And believe me, the homeless who don't have phones, the word got out, and they showed up. But let me tell you about Dean Gregory and his heart. Now, there were people standing there, and this one man came through and got his food, and he went around the corner. A few people still see him. He gobbled up a sandwich, he came back, and he said, oh, I dropped my food. Can I have another one? And the people who were standing there were all working, oh, he's lying, don't give it to him, he's lying. We saw him eat it. And Dean Gregory said, hey, take 2 this time. Take 2 this time. That's humanity. One year we were standing there, and I noticed there was across the street in front of Tiffany's was a man with a sign. Oh, he got a couple of spots to be in front of Tiffany's. Because obviously people go in there spending thousands of dollars to come out and give you something. And they would come out, he had a sign. In essence, his sign was saying, hey brother, can you spare a dime? Now that's the slogan from the 30s, but hey brother means I'm trying to connect with you. I'm trying to reach your humanity. I'm saying we're the same family. Can you spare? I didn't say give me, can you spare me a dime? And I watched and people came out and walked past him. Some people threw a few change at him. Some people said, hey, bum, get a job. This is just for wine. This is just for beer. And he had to sit there and smile and take all that. So about 5 minutes from 2, we were getting ready to close up. And he walks across the street to my kettle. And he took his whole cup. I still get emotional. He took his whole cup. Not just a cup of coins, but the cups of insults. The cup you to sit there in the cold, this is in December, and keep asking people, can you spare a dime? And he poured everything he had into that kettle. And then he looked up, and he had a little smile on his face. And he walked away, and he turned back, and he smiled again. Not the smile looking back of, oh, what the hell did I just do? But when he poured that, he stood up and he was a man. Even maybe in his own sense, just for that moment. But this homeless man taught me the difference between donating and giving. People sometimes donate, and it's great. People donate from surplus. I've got more than I can use. I'm going to give you some. But others give them what they have. So tonight, if you haven't given to Santa Maria, give them something. Maybe give them $5. What you're saying is, I believe in you. One organization can't solve the whole problem, but we need to ensure that that one organization can do the best they can. He gave to misery all that he had, a tear. He got from heaven all that he wanted, a friend. Be that friend. Be that friend. Be that friend. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr.